Welcome back to the cemetery. I'll be reading a original short story written by me. It is called The Bloody Moon. No one really knows the truth. Some say she did it, but the fact of the matter is something is lurking in these woods. There was a young couple named Macy and Mark who loved thrilling outdoor adventures. They were no strangers to hiking difficult terrain, often seeking out unmarked paths to add greater challenge. One fateful day, during one of their hikes, Mark and Macy saw a dark path picking up from the thick underbrush and tangled vegetation. Mark pulled out his compass, checked the direction, and then headed down the dark path. This particular path was a little more difficult than the couple originally anticipated. The brush became thicker. The sunlight barely shined through the treetops. Macy became worried that they may have bit off more than they could chew. As they continued to fight their way through matted vines and dead foliage, Mark reached for his compass hanging on his neck. It was gone. He frantically searched his pocket and backpack. Panic washed over them because they knew without a doubt they were lost. Mark and Macy started to retrace their steps, but due to the dense undergrowth, they had no idea where to go. Macy really began to panic when the sun no longer came through the leafless branches. Mark kept trying to convince her he knew exactly where they were, but in reality, he was panicking all the same in his mind. Hours have passed and the sun has faded into complete darkness. With only a small flashlight to guide them, they continued on through the thick foliage. A loud howl could be heard echoing through the forest. Macy huddled up closer to Mark as he quickly fanned with his flashlight. "What was that?" Macy asked with a nervous voice. Mark reassured her by saying, "It's just a wolf, but it's far off." Hope of getting back to the hiking trail tonight was fading away. They decided to camp where they were and get their bearings in the morning. They got out their sleeping bags and laid on the cold ground, laying close together for warmth. Macy woke up to the sound of branches cracking and leaves crunching near their campsite. She didn't want to alert whatever was moving around, so she laid as still as possible. She could hear loud breathing behind her. She covered her mouth with her hands, crying. She could hear leaves crunching right behind her. Suddenly, a monstrous figure emerged from the shadows. She let out a loud scream, scaring Mark awake. In a panic, he looked around frantically. He saw Macy curled up in her sleeping bag, scared to death. He looked over and saw it. A massive werewolf was standing in the tree line of the clearing, its fur matted by blood from its first victim. Drool spilled over his large teeth. It howled so loud they had to cover their ears. After a few seconds of processing the magnitude of the situation, they took off running as fast as they could through the thick forest. Small branches were like whips on their skin as they ran blindly through the darkness, bouncing off trees and stumbling over roots and falling branches. The werewolf snarled in pursuit as it tracked them with ease. The werewolf quickly caught up to them. Mark tripped on a large root sticking out of the dirt and fell, hitting his head. The werewolf pounced on him and sank his teeth into his neck. Macy kept running as Mark's scream echoed through the trees. Macy eventually stopped running and hid inside a hollow tree. He could hear the beast approaching and sniffing around her. She was trying desperately to stay quiet as she cried. The werewolf continued trying to find her. She picked up a big rock and threw it into the woods. The werewolf took the bait and ran off towards the sound. Macy crawled out of the hollow tree and went searching for Mark. She slowly moved through the low hanging branches, following blood drops left by the wolf, shining in the moonlight. Suddenly, she tripped on something and turned around to see what it was. It was Mark, or what was left of him. Macy screamed so loud that the birds flew from their nest. She could hear the beast running towards her, so she crawled under some fallen trees and ran away. She somehow made her way back to the campsite. She grabbed her sleeping bag, shoved it under a thick brush, and got inside. She stayed hidden as the wolf ran around trying to find her. The wolf kept searching but never discovered her makeshift hideaway. The werewolf howled once more before running deep into the forest. When morning came, she crawled out from under the brush, only to find out they were on the hiking path the whole time. Thank y'all for listening in. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe. A lot more stories to come. Please leave a comment and let me know what you thought of my story. Thank you and good day.